Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx. What you're about to watch in this video is a Discord call that I had this morning with Encoded, Stanley, Scalpel, and Andreas Petsalis. To give a little bit of context to what you're about to watch, Stanley and Andreas had a little rant on Twitch about a week ago where they talked about YouTube cubing and some of the things that they think could be improved in the community and how videos could be made better. But a big part of that rant was actually talking specifically about Encoded and how they thought that his videos could be improved. If you guys are interested in getting the whole picture and just getting more context, I'll have a link to that video that Stanley made in the description below. I don't necessarily recommend that you watch the entire video because it's about an hour long, but if you want, you can watch the first 20 or 30 minutes to just get some idea of what their thoughts are, and then you can come back to this video if you so wish. In this video, we're specifically going to clear the air, so we have Encoded, who was a hot topic in that video, on this call, as well as Stanley and Andreas, who originally made that video anyway. We made this video because, first of all, we all privately wanted to have a better understanding of each other and where we all come from and different perspectives on YouTube cubing and cubing community as a whole. But we're also releasing this video to the public because I think it's a nice opportunity for everyone who watches this to discuss their thoughts on YouTube cubing and how we can further the community either through video or through other means. So with that, hope you guys enjoy.
So hey guys, I'm Kevin. I have a YouTube channel, Encoded. Andreas, cyoubx. It's great to talk to you guys again. Stanley, I have a lot of respect for what you do, and it's good to finally talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you too, man. Hey, what's up? I'm Andreas. I'm a cubing Twitch streamer, and I like to host things apparently. That's it.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm Stanley. I'm a highly ranked blind solver and all-rounder, and yeah, it's great to be able to hear different perspectives today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Highly ranked. You're the highest ranked one.
Yeah, yeah, that's a little
High
humble,
five.
Stanley. Literally the best all-arounder in the world.
So yeah, before I get into anything that's like opinion based, I want to first apologize for any like assumptions I may have made. Like for example, I didn't know about like anything with your financial situation or anything. I'm glad you explained that. That gives a lot of perspective. And feel free to bring up anything else that's relevant like that. I highly appreciate it.
Yeah,
100%. It's all about just like knowing the context behind each situation, and it's impossible to know the context before you actually talk to the person.
Yeah.
Which is why like I feel like doing like those rants without actually talking to the person is not the most productive. But I definitely understand it because I've definitely done stuff like that in the past.
Yeah. To give context for that as well, this is just something that these are meant to be like spontaneous things that happen on my channel, and I really apologize if it came off as kind of like if it came across as like kind of a bad thing to do that before talking to you about anything. And yeah, so
it was unplanned.
Yeah.
Actually, to your credit though, to Stanley and Andreas, I actually thought that the rant overall was really impressive given that it was a live stream and everything was sort of on the spot. I think overall the messages were really good, and I agree with the majority of the points. And honestly, like if I were to make a rant live, I think it would be even less nuanced than what you guys did. So props to you. I think specifically for this call, it's really in the context of Kevin and Encoded and some of the things that was said there. But if any of you watching this on YouTube are interested in that video for context, I'll leave a link in the description. It is a really good video. It's just that the focus for this call is really focused on stuff that was said about Encoded, and maybe we can clear the air there.
But anyway, to branch off of that point that Kevin brought up in the comments, on that note, I do think what he's doing in terms of like playing the YouTube game, I completely respect that. So with whatever people may do in like titles and thumbnails, I really don't have a huge problem with anything like that. But I think in terms of content, sometimes to just give a brief overview, sometimes putting a bit more emphasis into creativity and ideally not at the expense of the production, but it sometimes may come to that. I think that can become important, and it kind of, to me, it kind of on some channels it shows to me as like a thing that might become important at some point. And I think just having like very like moving to a more like authentic. I don't like to use the term authentic because it it kind of implies that you're not at the moment, but finding like a more genuine style of content to like is something that ideally I'd like to see from not just you but like a lot of entertainment YouTube channels. And it's just something that I feel like because if to bring up, a specific example, like reacting to r/cubers post, I totally understand where you're coming from, just making a video like that, because it's hard to find content every single day. Like that's absolutely not an easy thing to do. I've tried, and it doesn't happen. But like, but just to give a suggestion of something that like you could do to make a similar form of content that like, might have a more authentic feel to it, is if like you had your own subreddit where cubers can post memes, and then you took memes from there where they know that their content they're posting so that they could possibly be in a Cubing Encoded video, rather than just posting to, public general subreddit and
Oh, that's
stuff like
interesting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely got some suggestions to do something like that, and I hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely going to maybe start implementing that. That's like a great idea, honestly. The thing about like, daily content obviously is that, I personally do believe that I'm trying my very best.
Hmm.
And, with it, like, sometimes, it would be like I would be busy the entire day, and then it would be like, really late at night, and I realize I still have to do a video. And I want to go to sleep, so obviously I have to, pump one out in like, 2 hours as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
And, I do try to make sure that, I do have, some very valuable content every now and then. For
Hmm.
example, if you took a look at my doing 1,000 solves in one sitting video, I really do feel like that's one of the best videos on my channel, and that took
Hmm.
like quite a long time to make. And then also I made like a fire video, and I do believe that's a great piece of content as well.
Yeah.
And so, it's like it's not an intentional thing where I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to, just pump out a video really quick. I don't even care. It's me, trying my absolute best. And sometimes I feel like that doesn't come across on camera or on videos. But once you actually like get behind, all the work behind it, I feel you know, like other content creators, for example, they would see like what I'm doing and feel like, oh wow, like how is he like, actually making a video every day? And it's because I'm putting a lot of work into it. And even though it may
Hmm.
not seem like that initially, that's just how it is. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I
Yeah.
definitely do understand it. Like in terms of the viewer, sometimes it could seem easier than it seems, and I totally get that because
Right.
a lot of things seem easier than you see. For example, like for example, when I see like fast tubers, solve like 6x6 or something, and I see like the top ranked people, I'm like, oh, that doesn't look terribly hard. They're just it looks like they're turning the same speed as me, and like they're just not pausing. But in reality, there's so much more work that goes behind getting to that
Hmm.
level.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just all just like understanding what it takes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also on another note, like with just content in general, like I get there's another side of it that I think I failed to discuss a little bit, and that's that like your viewers will want to watch the content. Like you can't just make a video that nobody will want to watch. Like and like you've shaped your audience to a point where you've put out this content in the past, they'll probably want to see similar things, and I totally understand that. And it's a hard thing to balance out. I totally get that, but I just
Mhm.
wanted to bring that up real quick because I
Yeah.
think that's that part of it's kind of gotten lost.
Yeah, another thing that's clear to me in your videos is that, like, in terms of production, you put a lot of effort, and that's very clear. That like you do very well in terms of editing and just making sure the videos are of high quality in terms of as a video. And then
Yeah, I
obviously,
make sure that it's always like, editing's clean. I make sure that everything's in focus. I have a nice
Mhm.
little, setup and everything, so I really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
and it's obvious that like obviously creativity is hard to come by right now, especially with daily uploads and not much happening in what you're trying to make content about.
Yeah, the
Um,
whole I talked to this with with a few of my friends. It's like, when I first started doing daily uploads, I thought it was fine because, I was like, oh, I have this idea, this idea, this idea. Like I should have enough amount of ideas. 3 months into it, it's starting to get a little bit more difficult. Like now every single time I have an idea, I write on this like little piece of paper and like, write down every single idea that I have, just so that I don't run out. But like some days, for example, like 2 days ago, I remember I spent a good 2 to 3 hours just like on my computer thinking of ideas. And I feel like that's the work that people don't see, like just thinking of an idea could take sometimes longer than actually making the video. Um,
Hmm.
so I think that's just like another one of those instances. Like cyoubx, you probably understand, like, just like spending like tons of hours just like, okay, what's the next video going to be about? And then finally finding a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I've kind of an interesting perspective on all this because I've been doing both cubing and YouTube for a long time. So I started cubing in 2008 and I started making videos in 2009. So I've sort of seen like how videos have changed and like, how especially like the YouTube scene has changed over, the past decade. And I think my perspective on all of it is that if the viewers are happy and, they're not upset with the content, then to me, it seems like it's good content. Because at the end of the day, if we broaden the scope a little bit and not think about things as being just cubing, but actually like things as enjoyment and content and entertainment, if people are entertained by your videos, regardless of how easy or hard it may be to make, that's a win. And I think from my perspective, especially for someone who's more of a casual cuber, I'm not really competitive anymore. I think that it is a net positive in the community. To bring up another point too from the original rant was this idea about tutorial videos being 100% accurate. I think CubeMaster made a video maybe yesterday or 2 days ago kind of talking about this, and one of his perspectives was that yes, of course, it's the onus is on the person making the video, the tutorial, to make sure that all the information is correct, because if they're not an expert and they're not as qualified to make a tutorial, then that should be clear. And if they're not an expert and there's something they don't know, then of course they should research everything as much as possible. But on the other hand, mistakes happen. And again, I think you have to sort of look at things from a broader perspective, which is that, if let's say I made a video on FTO, right? I don't even have an FTO. I don't know how to solve an FTO. But if I made a video on it and I showed very rudimentary things of how to turn the cube or the puzzle, for example, I would say that that's a net positive. Of course, I'm providing some misinformation because I don't know what I'm talking about. But of my subscribers, 90% of them have never heard of this puzzle. And so by introducing the puzzle and introducing some concepts, if that gets people into the event and into solving something that they haven't done before, I think that's a net positive. And of course, there are other resources such as Ben's videos that are going to be more informative on how to actually solve the puzzle correctly and how to get faster. But they may have not even seen those videos in the first place if I never made a video talking about it. So it's one of those things where when you have a very narrow scope, it's easy to say that, this is bad content or that this is misinformation that should not have been spread. But if it introduces people to something that they haven't tried before, to me, I think that's a win.
Yeah, but one of the things we were talking about is like, especially with a channel as big as JPerm, he's made like blatant mistakes when talking about events like Big Blind. And he's like the first person who's going to come up when you're looking for a tutorial, right?
Sure.
And if there's like a blatant mistake in that, it's going to be very frustrating and hard for the viewers to learn from that.
Maybe.
Yeah, that could definitely be difficult. The problem is that like obviously no one is perfect, and if you look at JPerm's channel as a whole, he's doing something amazing for the community because he's huge, and I'm sure that I remember I was at the Speaking Shop Summer Open, and I went over there and you see JPerm just like talking to all these kids, and all these kids are telling him that he was the person that made them start cubing, for so many people, like for all these kids that he was talking to. So I feel like, although there may be some mistakes here and there, as a whole, I think that, you really have to respect what Dylan's doing. He's just doing a great thing for the community, bringing in so many new cubers, and like, bringing them on this little cubing journey that we've been able to have the privilege to take part in.
Yeah, the other thing too is, how many world-class speed solvers for any event watch JPerm's content to learn something? I would guess 0, right? And so it's important to understand that his audience is not people who are world-class, nor do they necessarily want to be world-class. And so, he might have some blind tutorials that have some misinformation, but for someone like me, for example, who doesn't do blind, those videos are good enough because I don't ever care about being world-class at blind. I maybe just want to have a success. And, I'm a casual cuber. I don't, these are not things that I really care about. And I think if you're someone who wants to be very competitive, you're going to know who the best people are and you're going to actively search for those videos anyway, right? Like if I wanted to learn pseudo slotting, I learned that from Cubehead, who I don't think is an expert at pseudo slotting by any means, but it was good enough to get me into the concept of it. And from there, I watched Timon's videos and now I have a better understanding of it, right? So it's almost like a gateway thing. That's sort of my opinion on it, is that, yeah, JPerm's videos are not 100% factually correct, but they're good enough. for people to get by, especially if they're not super competitive. And those who are super competitive have other resources and they know what resources to seek out after the fact.
To provide a counterpoint, though, as a coach and also just moreover as, someone who, I'm basically like the default person to message if someone just wants like general tips for things. And like one thing that I see more often than people might expect is cubers who kind of are in this bubble where JPerm is to them like the only content. Like where there will be, I'll get messages like I watched JPerm's tutorial and don't understand this. I might reply with like, well, have you checked out anything else? And they're like, wait, there are other tutorials? Or, I just want to learn from JPerm though, or some response like that. And I haven't really seen this with many other with any other like tutorial channels. And, it's a weird phenomenon, and it's something that, is of course out of my control, but also it's, on this note, I think part of that argument may have been, out of my frustration for some things like this, but I don't know. It's kind of like, when you're that big to the point where there are people who kind of just see you as like the only resource to a certain extent. That's probably not all of what goes into it, but that is kind of what is occurring, at least in some people. I think there is kind of a need to go over both how and why in videos at the very least. I don't expect 100% accuracy. I definitely understand that mistakes happen, but it's like there are kind of like tutorials that just show how to do it and other tutorials that explain both how to do it and why things work. And I think the why things work, especially in blindfolded events, is extremely important. And it's in some aspects gets lost in a couple of JPerm tutorials.
Gotcha.
And he actually responded and he explained how he makes his tutorials, and I definitely respect how he does it. His approach is just, if I've never seen a video on this topic, I want to provide something that will answer my basic questions. But one thing that still I kind of want to ask him about is, where that fits in with the tutorials that are labeled as advanced 3 blind, because that's obviously not, a beginner's not going to watch that, right? So and in that regard, I think in that kind of video, that's something where explaining how to do things on a basic level is less important than explaining why a certain thing would work.
Yeah, I have something to say about that. The thing about JPerm is that he is the biggest for a reason, obviously.
Right.
There's a reason why he's the biggest cubing channel, basically, like on YouTube at the moment. And the reason why is because he has found a winning formula, and that winning formula is to break things down to the basics, and that's why it appeals to so many people. I feel like, the really advanced cubers, and that's not really his, obviously they may not benefit that much from JPerm's videos, but then again, that's probably not his point, because if he was trying to appeal only to advanced cubers like 100% of the time, his channel would not have reached the success it has.
Right.
So I feel like, his formula right now is just make it the basics. And you know what, sometimes, there's going to be drawbacks, but there's also, you have to realize that there's a huge benefit to that, which is it's very short and simple. Anyone can understand it. And, sure, there's like, downsides, but there's also so many benefits of what JPerm's formula is with his videos and what he does with his tutorials.
Right. Yeah. And for many tutorials, I definitely respect how that is working. But yeah, sorry, I just want to make this like more clear that it's mainly like a subset of his videos that I have like issues with. I think that got a bit lost in the whole rant style of everything.
Yeah.
But it's like specifically blind event tutorials, FMC, and then also like there's one specific F2L tutorial that I've seen beginners try to learn from firsthand, and it kind of falls down. And I think I may have generalized it, and yeah, I apologize for doing that. That was definitely an issue on my part. But basically, yeah, because that tutorial was, I think, also another example of when the why of everything gets lost and it's just the how. And I think in that tutorial, and actually the person in question who is actually trying to learn from this tutorial is the 7-time Tetris world champion. So he's like not a stranger to improving at things. He's been in that position before. He's I guess also, he's also in a position where trying things and figuring out how it works intuitively is kind of his thing. But at the same time, it worked better for him to find a tutorial where it explained more of like, these are the base cases, and then these are the kind of techniques you can use, rather than just like, if white corner is up, do this, then if they're connected, do this. Like, I think that tutorial, while it may work for some people, there's definitely like an audience to where, there's, like, where, it kind of falls down a little bit. And obviously, different learning styles do exist. I definitely want to acknowledge that. But as if he as he is in this position, like, I think it would at least, I don't want to like say what he should do or anything. That sounds like just not like the best move from me. But I think, it would be a benefit for the community for someone in his position to make like, tutorials that cater to different learning styles like that, instead of just having one.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing, my perspective on that is that, obviously JPerm has his audience, and I feel like, if you feel like there's something missing in the Cuban community, if you think that, if I thought that, JPerm should make some more advanced 6x6 tutorials, nothing is stopping me from making my own and, building up to his level, There's nothing stopping me from, if I think that there's a void that, he's not filling, then there's nothing stopping me from doing that. So that's just my perspective on that, if yes, like sometimes, like for example, you're the greatest blind solver of all time. So if you want to like, give in some blind input, then there's really completely nothing stopping you from making those videos. And maybe they may not be as popular as first, but I really do believe that, if you, really want to work at it and, work at it at the same level as JPerm does for his videos, you can make, you can get that many, as many people to watch your video as people watch JPerm's.
Yeah, and maybe the other thing that can be done as well in general for people making YouTube videos is to actually just be a little bit more straightforward and honest about what your knowledge level of certain things, it might be. So for example, if I make a tutorial about, one-handed and I don't really do OH, one thing I can do is I can actually send people to other resources, right? So I can say, this is my limited knowledge of OH, and like maybe this is good enough to get you started, but these are other resources that you can check out that are going to be more helpful for people who are, more interested in the event. Same thing with FTO. Like I'm probably going to make an FTO video and I don't currently know how to solve it. So of course I'm not going to pretend like I'm an FTO expert, but of course I can introduce the puzzle and then send people onto Ben's channel, for example, where they can learn more about the puzzle.
Yeah, I think overall we're all in agreement that overall JPerm's doing something amazing for the community, and sometimes there's small little nitpicks that you can make and that are justified, but those are just no one's perfect. It's just one of those things where no one's perfect, and obviously he's going to make small mistakes here and there, and overall like sometimes his concepts may be flawed, but that just comes with having so many positives with it.
Stanley and Andreas, if you guys have any basically, what would you like to see in YouTube videos, and like what would you think would be more beneficial content for the community? Because I know that was like sort of a big topic of the rant, was this idea of like benefiting the community, and we've touched on that a little bit, but maybe we can discuss that more.
Yeah. So Kevin, if you don't mind me like just kind of like throwing a video idea out there. So I don't know, this is kind of like just an idea that I had just now, but it's like you a lot of times in your videos you talk about how you don't know how to solve a cube blindfolded, right? So I think making a video, even if you don't fully learn how to solve a cube blindfolded, but just like spending some time like trying to learn it, I think that kind of video could be super helpful to the community, where because your audience is younger, it can really approach the event as something that's not like impossible and only like boomers can do it. Like
it gets rid of like the nuance. Interestingly enough, my little idea paper, I do have learned how to solve Rubik's Cube blind. So I actually did have the idea coming up. And I think so I think one thing, like from your rant, I didn't actually watch the entire thing because obviously I just didn't want to.
Understandable. That's understandable. Exactly. I totally get it.
But like I took out a couple things. Some things I thought were just like not really fair in my opinion. For example, like the whole like, oh, he's not spending that much time. I didn't really think that was fair. One thing I did think that was very fair though was that I could be making videos to benefit the whole of cubing, because my
Right.
channel hasn't really been big for the longest time, so I haven't really adjusted to the
Yeah.
whole like responsibility of whole running a channel. For the longest time, I was
Mhm.
just, a smaller channel, whatever I do, it doesn't really have that much of an impact. But at this point, I
Yeah.
do know that a lot of people are watching my content and I can actually make like, a difference on the community. Just like
Mhm.
the way, Christopher Olsen did when I was starting cubing. So,
Right.
I've been brainstorming, I wanted to make a video like, oh, what not to do at WCA competitions, just so that, like
Yeah.
newer cubers that watch my videos could have like a general understanding of, oh, don't yell during blindfolded, or oh, don't stop other people's timers while they're stalling because that's just annoying. Just like general
Yeah.
like tips and make it in a fun like way, but still try to have an impact to newer cubers because if you know 20,000 people could watch that video, that's 20,000 people that have a better understanding of how to behave themselves at the competition. And a
Right.
lot of times my viewers are younger, which I really appreciate because that means that I have like an impact on the future of cubing.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I definitely make sure that I think of what not to do at WC competition is in the works.
Yeah.
um
And like to put
yeah
that in perspective, 20,000 people, that is like well over 10% of the entire WCA. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, it really does make a difference in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I think Stanley's idea would be so interesting, because if you made like a blind video, just maybe detailing like
Yeah.
your progress, what resources you use, because then you're promoting other people and you're kind of bringing everyone up at the same time if you make that kind of video.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
interesting. It's definitely just like it's so hard for me to grasp like the like just that there's actual people watching the videos because you
mhm.
like cyoubx, you probably understand this, like when you look at something like Social Blade or like YouTube Studio, you really just see like a number going up and it doesn't like innately register that those are actual people that are watching the videos. It's very difficult to actually grasp that. It's not natural.
Mm-hmm.
But more and more I'm starting to learn that there's actually a sense of responsibility and like I actually have like an impact. So that's something that I'm learning more and more. And it was a point that you guys made that I feel like I actually like was able to learn from.
Yeah, and again, I really apologize for anything I may have said
Yeah.
that was like very overgeneralized. Like if I said like that your content is like just low effort,
Mhm.
I think that probably was a result of a different point getting lost in, one that probably sounded a lot worse. And yeah, I really hope that wasn't the main takeaway of it. And I'm not intending to cause any like actual drama here. I just wanted
Yeah,
to put my
yeah,
viewpoints
Of
out
course.
there
for sure.
and have a
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's because also another thing that we could have done a little better is we let emotions, because we care a lot about
Yeah.
the community, take
Yeah.
over a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
And one
yeah.
thing
I think
noticed.
something
Oh,
I think something I got out of it was that like when you just watch people online and you see people, it's really hard to humanize them. Like sometimes like you fail to humanize them, and I feel like that's what happened during the rant, and especially because it was live and everything. Obviously mistakes are going to be made when you do a live stream. That's why I haven't done too many of them. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, like obviously I think what what you guys struggled with the rant was to actually like see these creators as not just their channel but like as a person, like as just a
Mhm.
normal just another cuber.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's all just a learning experience, like it just
Right.
you learn every single day and now you're gonna become better.
Yeah.
So
I
that's really
definitely get what you're saying for sure. Yeah, and I agree that was a weaker point of the rant. And
Mhm.
this is I really, it's just a learning experience for everyone. Like
Yeah.
this is a format that I'm also new to. It's not a thing that I've been doing for a while. And yeah, I'm glad we're able to just talk about this. And another thing that I also, looking back, should have done was, I should have told my mods to be more proactive in, removing messages that could have been, introducing like toxicity or, less nuanced messages to the chat. And, that's on me, not my mods. I didn't tell them to do anything, so they were going to just mod chat like normal. I don't blame them at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the future, that's something I'll definitely be doing, especially if it's very like opinionated like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going back a little bit to what Andreas said, and this also ties into something in the rant, something that I think would be really cool is, as much as I think you guys would all agree, as much as we all care about the community, it's a little bit odd that the YouTube community for cubing is not really there. Like we don't really see that many collaboration videos. Like for example, what we're doing right now is like almost never seen.
Mhm.
And it's weird how isolated we are online when in fact we care so much about being interconnected. So Stanley, you mentioned cubing world and how we should bring that back, and I totally
Yeah,
agree. But even
that's in
on
the works actually.
that's awesome, yeah. And but even on a larger scale, like I encourage anyone who is making YouTube videos or who cares about the community in any capacity to actually do collaborations with other people, and always reach out, even if the channels are bigger than yours. Who cares? Like I think it's something
Right.
that's important, and if we can grow together as a community, that's a win-win for everyone.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with the collaborations point. That's something that I think right now seems to be basically relegated to Twitch, but I do think YouTube collaborations should still be a thing. They're a really, great aspect to the community. And considering that, the YouTube cubing community is still a lot bigger than the Twitch community, I do personally think, that can and, I don't want to say should, but I greatly encourage that to the Twitch community to grow.
Hmm.
People from YouTube to go over, but like, I think with how much volume of just people there is in the YouTube cubing community, having collaborations is just such a great thing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And I'm so glad that
but
this is
wh-
happening, and and with as well, just like I think more um just sort of like conversational videos like this. I think that can be helpful too.
but one of the things I wanted to point out is how like oriented cubing, like the reason probably that collabs don't happen as often on YouTube is that it's so much easier on a live platform to kind of just spontaneously organize something and
Right.
hit someone up than if it's for an actual video.
Hmm.
Because when you're doing a live, you're just sitting cubing, like you're doing whatever. When you're actually doing a video, you're gonna have to focus on like production and all that stuff to make it very high quality.
Yeah.
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 And that could be one of the problems.
Yeah, the interesting about or like YouTuber collaborations. One thing I have been seeing is Tingman. He's been doing like quite a few of them. Like he's been, tons of times he's reached out to me like, oh, I have this idea, and I like sometimes I do it, and so he's doing something really great. The thing about Cube collaborate or like YouTuber collaborations with me is that sometimes they just don't really make sense for my channel. Like I don't really see how I could market that video because obviously like, YouTube is you have to make a video and like it's about the content but it's also about how you market the content and
Right.
collaboration videos maybe the content might be like really great but I fail to see how like I would market that unless the channel is like of my size or bigger or like an
I
up and
see.
comer that's like really great. So that's just like the whole thing about me um with collaborations. Like I don't really see like for a lot of them, like even though I do a couple of them, for a lot of them I don't see how I would be able to market it personally on my channel, which isn't like like fault at anyone. That just me
Right.
making sure that my channel like performs well.
That's
Mhm.
understandable, and I think to suggest something that you could do is if it's okay with that channel, you can like always create a title and thumbnail that might be more about you and your content and your own brand, but then in the video plug them, and then like that creates the mutual benefit. I think when if the like title and thumbnail, the click through stuff, that can be all you, but then like at the beginning of the video you can just say like, hey, I featured so and so on my channel, go check them out, link is in the description. And then I think
100%.
that accomplishes what to a certain degree what you want to do.
100%.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what me and Stanley did for the rant, and per se wasn't maybe 100% a collab, but I think the way he did it is kind of what he's talking about. Wasn't like shouting me out or anything. It was just I was there to help his content out.
Yeah, just other content creators just helping each other and other people in the community just helping out each other. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I have honestly I haven't really thought about this topic too much because honestly with like where I am with YouTube right now, like where like my situation is, I've had to be like very much like just focused on my own thing, just making a video every single day. So I haven't really like had the time to just like think about the community as a whole. Right now it's really just down to business. with me, with my channel, with my goals and like what I have to do, which I'm sure like most people can understand. So yeah, I haven't really thought about this topic too much.
Right.
Well, I've seen you do collabs recently with other channels actually, but just
A little
not
bit, yeah.
on your channel. Yeah, I saw you on Brody's channel.
TV,
TNL
Trivia, TNL, Brody. Yeah, those are all just like friends of mine that I talk to like regularly. So that's why I said they had the idea, and I was like, okay, sure. Like it doesn't take too much of my time, and it would be a fun video for the day. Were there anything else with the rant that we should cover, or do you think that's because I think this is really productive?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everything I wanted to talk about, I think has been covered. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are happy, then we're good to go.
I'm happy. I think
Yeah.
this was,
Yeah.
we all learned a lot, and
Yep.
it was
Yeah,
really
for
good.
sure. For sure. Yeah, I'm really glad we had this conversation.
Overall, I'm getting a better understanding of where Stanley and Andreas's like mindset were when making the rant. I definitely understand it. It's all just understanding each other's perspectives, and definitely I've made the mistake of making kind of like in the moment like thoughts about other people, and it's never a good thing, obviously. But just it's all just like learning in the future. And that's for my content. I right now I think what I'm doing is really what's the best for me personally, and I definitely think that in the future I will be having to like integrate more content that will have like a more substantial effect on the community as a whole, because I feel like that's something I have the power to do, and I should definitely take advantage of, because I want to make positive change, obviously. But yeah, it's all just like I think it's really great to understand like where their mindsets were at the time and where my mindset is, and that's why I like having conversations like this.
Yeah. I think I just learned a lot in general about how like content creators on platforms like YouTube work, and how they think a lot more. I mean, I know you guys have to sometimes think about yourselves a little more, because it's how you support yourself. It's your job. And I just, in general, learned a lot, maybe to see people more as people before just judging their content and stuff.
For me, I learned a lot about like the dynamic of work-life balance as like a daily uploader, and also just kind of like really what it kind of the kind of like creativity burnout, I kind of want to call it, as like once you've gone through this for so long, and like as well as with collaborations. That's not something I thought about for a long time, and it just makes me feel optimistic about the future of YouTube cubing. It can create a lot of good opportunities for everyone, and yeah, really lots of good perspectives. Thank you so much, Kevin, for bringing your perspectives to the table.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks to all of you for joining this call. I'm really happy we did this, because I think as expected, there is a lot of nuance in everyone's points from both sides, and I think in this discussion we came to some pretty mutual conclusions, and it was a very fruitful discussion about how we can improve cubing, the community, and YouTube content. And yeah, I think overall this is just really productive.
All right, brilliant. See you guys.
All right, see ya.
All right.
Thanks for
Thanks for the call. All right, until next time, toodles.